And welcome to our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. The Israeli Military Advocate General has for the first time called for criminal inquiries into the conduct of Israeli troops in Gaza. The request came in response to soldiers' testimonies that described loose rules of engagement, troops firing on unarmed civilians, and troops intentionally vandalizing property during the 3-week assault on Gaza. The soldiers' accounts are published in the Israeli daily Haaretz and based on statements made a month ago by graduates of the Yitzhak Rabin pre-military preparatory course. Defense Minister Ehud Barak told Israel Radio that the incidents would be examined and added, quote, "We have the most moral army in the world."
We're joined now on the line from Gaza by Haaretz correspondent Amira Haas. Amira, welcome to Democracy Now! The Haaretz newspaper describing this as a several-day expose. Israeli soldiers, in their own words, talk about its significance.
Its significance, of course, is that the soldiers actually confirm what Palestinians have been telling for the past 3 months, and what journalists who listen to Palestinians and believe Palestinians and know their work of taking affidavits and testimonies from Palestinians have done so during the last 3 months. This is the main importance, because we don't know the exact locations of this, and it's not the only incident. Some Israelis might get the impression that the soldiers who spoke about the only incidents of killing civilians and of very lenient rules of engagement, and this is not true. The whole attack, the 3 weeks of attack, were characterized by this attacks on almost indiscriminate attacks on civilians, attacks on people who carried white flags, attacks on rescue teams, not to mention the attacks from the air at whole civilian neighborhoods. So I would say that, of course, it was not my report. The Haaretz did a great job at putting a lot of emphasis to these testimonies of soldiers. It drew attention to what many Israelis managed to ignore during the last 3 months.
And some of the specific incidents that were described, I understand one in which an elderly Palestinian woman who was walking along the road was ordered to be shot by some soldiers in a house.
Yeah, if I know, look, there are several such cases. I myself have run into. I didn't manage to write about it all, but I know about one specific old woman who walked in a certain neighborhood. I don't know if they talk about the same woman or another one. They talk about a woman who was killed with her 2 children. Now I got a phone call by the field worker of B'Tselem, the field worker who is here in Gaza, and he told me, I found a family, only that it's not 2 people who were killed, it's 5 people or 4 people, and the mother was not killed, she was wounded. So it doesn't mean that everything that the soldiers, it doesn't mean that everything was exactly as it is described, or that there are many other incidents that we haven't reached yet.
Amira Haas, you're back in Gaza. We're about to go to the well-known story. Anjali Kamet saw you in Gaza, Democracy Now! Producer, of the Palestinian gynecologist whose voice shocked, stunned Israel as he wailed on television that his daughters and his niece had been killed. He was a well-known voice on Israeli television. Could you just introduce it for us, the significance of that moment?
This is just as another incident that it happened by accident to a guy who works in Israel, who speaks Hebrew, who knows many Israeli big shots and many journalists. So he could call a friend of his who works on Israeli TV and tell him live what was happening. So for the first time, Israeli believed what was said during the previous 2 weeks or 3 weeks of this attack. So again, Then he went then he was allowed to go with his wounded daughter to a hospital in Israel. This is luxury that not everybody got, or most of the people could not get. He could be rescued very quickly. This is many other Palestinians could not be rescued at all, not even to a Palestinian hospital. And there he could talk to people and to journalists. So again, the significance is that his case managed to break a wall, an Israeli wall of unwillingness to know. But the problem is that then people take it as an exceptional case, as an exceptional that tells about the rules. But we know this exceptional case is not exceptional at all.
And in just the brief amount of time we have left, the situation in Gaza today?
Look, now it's back to being the huge prison that it was before. It is a huge prison. People cannot leave. People cannot come. There is a great need of reconstruction, and they're leaving the political problems aside. People live now, I'm saying, with friends. They don't have glass in the wall, in their windows. They have nylon because there is no glass getting into Gaza, no any construction materials. And the people all people still remember the fear, the terrible fear in which they lived. This is a common experience of 1.5 million. And the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands who encountered direct shooting are still affected. Either it's the bereaved families or the wounded or people whose houses were destroyed. It's not gone. It's not something which belongs to the past.
Amira Haas, I want to thank you for being with us. She is an Israeli journalist with the Israeli newspaper Haaretz. She lives in Gaza. This is Democracy Now! When we come back, you will hear the words, the wailing of the Palestinian doctor on Israeli television. And then Democracy Now!'s Anjali Kamet visits him 2 months later this past week in Gaza. Stay with us. Explosions in the sky, an ugly fact of life. Here on Democracy Now!